As you can see, it is election day here in New York. So in honor of that, we decided to watch a film starring two former United States governors. And a guy who ran for governor but didn't get. Wow, that is not what I thought this film would be known for. Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron.
And I'm Michelle.
This is our post-Geekout retrospective of the original Predator from 1987. Tomorrow we will be having our official review of the new Predator film coming out. But we decided that in honor of that, in order to get prepped for it, we would go back and watch the original film. It had been a long time since I had seen this. There are a lot of classic horror and action films from the 80s that I saw when I was a kid, and I have little bits of memory of it. So yeah, as I was watching this, it was one part rediscovering it and one part kind of watching it for the first time since I was watching it as an adult. Had you ever seen this before?
Yeah, I have. But like I said, just like with you, it's been a while.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was kind of refreshing to get to watch this again, because when you watch it without that full nostalgia, kind of rediscovering it all over again, you can kind of judge it honestly. And yeah, this is still a damn good movie. But I've been wanting to watch this again because we have Thor-Eween, the month-long celebration of everything horror-related, coming up at the beginning of October. And I was actually planning on watching this for Thor-Eween because over the past month, I've seen the original Predator popping up on multiple people's top 100 list of all-time best horror movies. And every time I saw that, I was like, really? It's a good movie, but a horror movie? It's not a horror movie. And as we went back and watched this, it kind of hit me. Yeah, this actually is a horror movie.
Yeah, it's basically a slasher movie if the slasher was from outer space.
Yes. It's basically like Camp Crystal Lake is now set in the rainforest. That's it. And now Jason is Jason X. That is it. I was about to say, and Jason came from space and he's got all kinds of cybernetic high-tech equipment. Oh wait, that actually happened. That was a thing. One day we'll go back and watch that movie. That was actually my very first Jason movie, Jason X. Man, that kind of set the bar at a weird point for the rest of the franchise. But yeah, as you're watching this movie, it's got all the beats of a slasher film. Just rather than hunting down horny teenagers, they're hunting down horny army guys. Well, they're not army guys. They're special elite forces, which that was a big thing back in the 80s.
Yeah.
We have this special elite team, and they're the only ones who can get the job done. That's another thing that makes this movie so fascinating. It's that they spend the first half hour of this movie just saying up, these guys are the biggest badasses you have ever seen. And it's kind of like prison rules. It's kind of like, hey man, if you want your monster in the movie to feel like the biggest threat out there, have them beat up the biggest guy in the room. And you keep looking at this, and Jesse Ventura, he's got so much personality, and I don't want to say charisma, but stage presence. He's got so much presence there. I mean, the dude's walking around with a freaking Gatling gun like it's nothing. And he's the second guy to go. The first guy is Shane Black. The first guy is the writer who they just put in here so that he could do punch-up writing as they were filming the movie. But that character was purposely an asshole. And it feels like they wrote him to be an asshole so that way it would be he's the guy who's gonna die first. Which again is a total trope of horror films. The total D-bag is typically the first person to die in there. So he gets taken out immediately. And then Jesse Ventura, this guy who, he's the I got time to bleed. Yeah, you think he's going to be the biggest, he's the guy who's going to wrestle the Predator head on. Nah, man. He gets taken out immediately, which lets you know, the Predator is actually kind of a big deal. But as I said, it's got the beat of most slasher films where the D-bag is the first one that gets taken out, but also the way that they find the first kill. And they look at it, it's what could have done this? That's a very typical thing in a slasher film where you see someone die and you have no idea how it happened. But even from there, you then cut to the Predator looking at them. That, again, is a massive trope of horror films, of slasher films specifically, is constantly seeing our protagonist being stalked from the bushes, from the shadows, by whatever this unseen killer is. Yeah, this movie is basically a slasher film, just, hey, what if the guys they were slashing could fight back, but the thing that they're fighting back against is so powerful it doesn't really matter. Yeah, it was actually kind of refreshing to watch this film now actually thinking of it that way. I actually totally would classify this as an action horror, and I don't know how many other films actually fit that category.
Would it be like action sci-fi horror? Or
Well, yeah, you can throw sci-fi in there
Yeah.
as well, but I don't know, sci-fi is one of those things where it's like, sci-fi kind of describes the world, it doesn't really describe, like, to me, the genre of the film should be like the emotions that go into it. I always look at it as there's like big overarching
yeah, I mean, like, now that I think about it, like, this mostly, like, takes place, like, in the jungle, like, in present day, so it's not really much of a sci-fi feeling.
It's not like Alien or something like that, yeah. Which is another one of those things where a lot of people look at it and it's like, well, that's just a sci-fi film. It's like, no, it's horror. It is a horror film. It just happens to be set in a sci-fi world with sci-fi elements in there.
So you think this would be like a horror film set in like an action world?
Yeah.
An action genre?
Kind of like that, yeah. I look at it kind of like the same way that I look at Shaun of the Dead, where it's like, that is horror comedy. This is horror action. Just you never really typically think of like horror and action going together.
Yeah.
Because horror is supposed to make you tense, action is supposed to make you cheer. So it is kind of weird that those two very much balance each other out in this thing. But yeah, it really is a very impressive movie when you consider that, oh man, yeah, you had to balance two things that do not go together to make this movie work. But one of the reasons why this movie works so damn well is that this... I can't say it's Schwarzenegger's best movie. It's his second best Schwarzenegger film. When I say it's his second best Schwarzenegger film, I mean, do you want to know what Schwarzenegger was all about? These are the two films to watch. Number one to me is Commando. Commando, it's just him being a badass nonstop from start to end, him constantly making quips about everything. I mean, that's the one in which he throws a steam pipe at someone and goes, let off some steam. It's like, that is the most crazy ass Schwarzenegger line. But like, you know, Terminator.
That's another one.
Great film. But like, you could have gotten kind of anybody to be the Terminator.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's supposed to be like a robot, so he's not supposed to have like much of a personality.
Exactly. But Commando and Predator's like, nope, you need Schwarzenegger for that. Schwarzenegger's the only guy who could have sold some of the moments in this movie, and it's one of the films that actually really captures what the charisma of Schwarzenegger is. Like, this is pure grade A weapons clash Schwarzenegger charisma in this film. And you realize that in the very beginning, when you see him chomping down on the cigar, no one chomps into a cigar like Schwarzenegger does, because watch how he chomps into a cigar. His entire face molds around the cigar. Like, he doesn't just like put it in his mouth. His lips will just, like, just vacuum seal around that thing. And I'm bringing this up because whenever he bit into it, I couldn't not focus on him. But that's what charisma is. It's forcing you to look at, like, go, all right, I know big things are happening here, but I can't stop looking at this guy. But it's not just him. Everyone in this movie is the most whatever that actor is that they have ever been in any movie. Like, Jesse Ventura has never been more Jesse Ventura than he has been in this film. And Bill Duke, who has one of the best names in all of Hollywood, like, is the most, like, perfect, like, I need to come up with a badass screen name. Bill Duke, like, 2 syllables, that's it, in and out. That guy is just so, like, that guy is known for just being insanely, like, intense. And every line out of his mouth is like, this dude is about to murder his own squad. Like, you really get that sense that when he calls Carl Weather over with the knife, it's like, he's about to, like, put the knife to his neck and, like, threaten him or something. It's like, nope, kills that scorpion. It's like, all right, I don't know where you're coming from, Bill Duke. What's his character's name? Mac. That's what I remember. Okay. And Carl Weathers, I love Carl Weathers. Carl Weathers is one of the most underrated actors out there. Like, that guy also just has so much personality. And it really feels like he should have taken off in the 80s, kind of like Schwarzenegger did. I mean, he was a big deal. I mean, he was Apollo Creed. It's not like he wasn't in stuff. But yeah, I always felt like he deserved like way more attention than he got. And yeah, he is a complete badass in this as well. And this has become a meme recently, so it's like perfect timing. But that opening scene of like the two of them just going in and like the just slapping like the handshake together, that thing is so. They turned a handshake into being over the top, and they hold on that. Like, I remember that scene from when I was a kid, and people have made fun of that scene. It's been turned into a meme, like I just said. But when we were watching it, I still found myself going, this scene goes on for so goddamn long. Like, they hold on that shot so much longer than I remember them holding on to it. But it's perfect. Like, you look at that as like, man, from a handshake, I know instantly everything I need to know about these two guys. So from this movie, it starts with this badass team going in there, and they have to go and basically attack all these guys who have taken these U.S. soldiers hostage. Or something like that. It's not important. I don't remember everybody's position. I don't remember their official titles or anything, because that's not what the movie is about.
Blah, 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 military stuff.
Yeah. But what I love is that this movie has its own movie happening without the Predator in it. This movie, it has them go in there, they have to save the day, they do all these badass stunts, take all these guys out, and then they discover that they knew that Carl Weathers, he knew something about all of this, and he didn't tell them about that, and then there's some secret that the government's been involved with in all of this stuff. And I love that they set all that up, and it's like, oh, where's this gonna go? Fucking nowhere, because the Predator comes in and it's like, I ain't here for all that shit. And that's something that I really enjoy about horror films, is not when they create a plot and they forget it, which does happen in a lot of shitty horror films. I love when horror films will set up like this whole subplot, and then it's like, yeah, none of that shit matters anymore because there are monsters now. And that's exactly what happens in here.
Like, they set up a backstory for the world, but then the threat comes along.
The threat comes along, yeah. But it's not even that, because it's not just like backstory between these characters. There is a legit, like, no, if the Predator had never shown up, this would have been a story about this elite team getting involved in a situation with the United States government that they knew nothing about, and they got set up to take some kind of a fall, and Carl Weathers was kind of in on, and oh, now their trust has been broken. Oh my goodness, what is going to happen here, and what's going to happen when they get back home? Are they even going to make it back home? Yeah, that movie is gone. That could have been an entire film. In fact, it even sounds like the premise of a lot of 80s Schwarzenegger films. And they're just like, nah, monster.
Yeah, it's like typical 80s Schwarzenegger film. Then you shove in a monster.
Yeah, that's one of those things. That's like a very rare thing that occasionally does happen in like horror and action films, that, or even like horror, sci-fi, that in general, where they will just set up like, no, this could be its own movie. Forget all that shit. Everything is broken now.
World building, I think that was the word I was looking for.
That's a good word for it, yeah. So yeah, this film actually does that marvelously. And I really enjoy the fact that this film from there, it just becomes so over the top, because there's so many characters in here that you're like, all right, I think that guy's got a shot. Because they build every single one of these characters up as being such huge badasses, and yet every single one of them goes down. And it gets to a point, like, I remember when it got to the moment where Bill Duke and Carl Weathers were going out there to try and hunt this thing down, I actually kind of get that thought where it's like, okay, maybe these guys could do it. Maybe they actually have a shot. Okay, it's like, okay, maybe they're not going to actually take the Predator down, because Schwarzenegger's in this film. Schwarzenegger, of course, has to be the one that takes him down. That's obvious.
They'll, like, help him.
But they're going to survive this at least. I mean, one of them will die. Nowhere is both of them going to die right now. No, they are both dead.
Like, everyone dies except Schwarzenegger.
Schwarzenegger and the lady who they find in the book.
Well, yeah, like, she doesn't, like, count as, like, the squad.
Yeah. Which, again, speaking of how this is a horror film, there is another classic horror trope in here in which they are talking to her, and she says, well, there were legends in my village about thinking, like, yeah, the creepy-ass backstory that some random traveler just happens to have about the monster that you're facing. That is another classic trope.
But, like, it sets up, like, that this thing keeps coming back to Earth.
Yes, it does set up a history to this thing, which, okay. There are problems that I do have with this movie. And one of the big ones is that I hate that the very first shot of this film is the spaceship coming down.
Yeah, because it kind of ruins the surprise. Like,
I mean, again, can you imagine if you went into this film and you didn't know anything about this, and you're like, yeah, okay, I'm just watching like a Schwarzenegger film, and okay, they found some dead bodies in there, and they're creepy, and oh, something's watching them. I bet it's some elite soldier with all this high-tech equipment. Nope, monster. No one would have seen that coming. Except that the very opening shot is a spaceship coming down.
Like, I don't know, like, would you, like, suspect that it would be a monster from the title, Predator?
No, because it's in the 80s, lots of movies had titles just like that.
Fair enough.
One noun that's kind of vague. Like, yeah, a lot of movies back then had that. You might have, like, suspected something was up. But yeah, like monster, alien, I don't think most people's brains would have instantly gone to that.
Like maybe
especially because back then, yeah, man, we hadn't really seen the high-tech monster before. Like that was really a new thing.
Like maybe like the Predator would have been like this really hardcore bounty hunter or something,
something like that.
Yeah.
Which he actually is, but
yeah, who happens to be from space.
Yes. So yeah, I do think that they kind of screwed the pooch on that one.
Yeah.
There's also one other problem that I have in here. Like, it's one of those things that I should just let this go, but it stands out like a sore thumb to me in this movie. There comes a moment in which the woman who they found in the village, she wants to pick up a gun, and Schwarzenegger tells her, no, don't pick up a gun. If you pick up a gun, then he'll kill you. Otherwise, there's no sport in it. And I was just like, how the fuck do you know that? Like, it was way too early. Like, nothing had given them that hint yet that this thing was hunting them for sport. And he just instantly goes, he's only hunting for sport. And I was like, what? How'd you know that? When did you, that's like, yeah, that just felt very lazy to me, that one moment in there. Which, that is something that I like about the Predator. It's that he is hunting for sport. But it kind of feels like he's just one of those, the Screen Junkies, like Oz Trailers guys, already made this joke. But it does kind of feel like he's one of those douchebags who just goes and pays a guy to go and, like, hunt a lion or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, like, I don't think this is totally a fair fight, man. I don't think that you're really even with these guys.
Yeah, it's like, he's obviously more technologically advanced.
Way more, yeah. It's like, alright, turn off the cloaking device or something. Like, if you did that, I'd give you some credit on this one, but yeah, it doesn't quite feel fair, man. Yeah, so the Predator isn't that much of a badass when you consider how outmatched these guys are.
But it's like, I think that like kind of like drives the point, especially like during the climax, because Arnold has to like rely on like his surroundings.
Oh, it makes Arnold way more of a badass.
Yes.
I'm just saying it makes the Predator a little bit more of just an asshole.
Yeah.
Predator's such a jerk, everybody.
Assholes from space.
That was the Muppet skit that never got past the credits. So, yeah, let's see, I don't want to, like, just start wrapping up, but I feel like we've kind of, like, covered a lot of this film.
Yeah, I mean,
it is a simple,
very simple thing.
It is, like, monster is hunting these guys. Like I said, there is, like, an actual complex story in here up until the half-hour mark, and then they're just like, nah. Shane Black is dead, the rest of you are going soon.
Like, that's kind of the thing, is, like, because I knew what to expect, I kind of felt like that build-up was a bit tedious.
It is, yeah, that's the thing. We can't judge this film entirely, like, blind.
Yeah.
Because we, not only did we see it, like, when we were kids, but even when I was a kid watching it the first time, Predator toys were everywhere. Like, the Predator was being, like, marketed everywhere.
Yeah, and, like, even if you didn't know about, like, the merchandise or, like, anything like that, just that opening scene with the spaceship...
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay, we know there's gonna be an alien, so let's go and get that alien.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it makes it so you don't care about the human stuff in here as much. So yeah, that is kind of a problem with the film. But yeah, it is still a damn good action film. It's shocking to me how much this still holds up.
Yeah, I really like the practical effects.
The practical, man, it's one of the best looking monsters in Hollywood history. Speaking of that, did you ever see the original Predator?
Oh, no, I didn't. Like,
oh, this was not the original design for him. The original design, the Predator was going to be played by Jean-Claude Van Damme. And so it was a lot skinnier. And also, it had like this praying mantis head. Like, it was this bizarre thing I can't quite describe. But yeah, it had like a long neck coming up. and then like just the bug face at the top with the two little like pincher like up there. And yeah, it looked like a Power Rangers villain. Like, I'm not kidding. It looks like it's about to grow to like 50 feet tall. Then Schwarzenegger and his crew have to get out their Megazords. That's the Power Ranger film that I'm waiting on.
It's just a Super Sentai, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where he turns into Turbo Man.
Except it has the Jesse Ventura Gatling gun. Yeah, it looks so not good. And evidently, eventually, what's his face? Jean-Claude Van Damme was eventually like, yeah, fuck this, man. I'm not wearing this suit. This thing sucks. Like, he went there on the set. He was in the suit for a while, and he was like, I can't do flips and kicks and this shit. And yeah, it was originally like he was gonna be like way more agile and shit. And Schwarzenegger, because this was Schwarzenegger in the 80s, and he knew everyone in Hollywood, he called up like this famous makeup artist. It was like, yeah, I'm on this set. Our guy just walked off. This thing looks stupid. Can you design us something cool? And he came up with this Predator design, like, apparently, like, on a plane. He just started, like, sketching this thing out. Yeah, man, that is some magic right there. It's one of those insane Hollywood stories where it's like, wow, an entire franchise almost didn't exist because this thing almost was stupid. But yeah, the Predator itself has a fantastic design to it. And a lot of like the effects, even like the digital ones with like its invisibility and stuff, still hold up incredibly well. The only effect in here that I don't think holds up is when you cut to Predator vision. I think that there are definitely moments when you're in Predator vision and I can't tell what's going on. If they were ever to do like one of those George Lucas Star Wars, like I'm just gonna go back and fix all the effects, I'd be like, don't touch any of the effects in here except when it cuts to Predator vision. Just clean that up a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of felt like the lasers that they shot were kind of...
That definitely, like, there is, like, 2 moments in this film where he, like, shoots someone, like, he, like, shoots Arnold right in the chest at one moment, and then it's like, ow, my arm. It's like, or there's a moment when she shoots Carl Weathers, also, like, right in the chest, and it cuts off his arm, and it's like, yeah, okay, your aim's off. Yeah, not the Predator's aim. You guys in the effects booth, like, it's off just shove it over to the side just a tiny bit there. So yeah, there are a few moments in here where the effects don't work, but
overall, they're really impressive.
All the practical stuff, man, this is why I always say practical effects work way better.
Know.
They hold up. Like,
I know.
I mean, granted, you can't make a practical effect laser beam, but...
No.
I mean, even, like, when Carl Weathers' arm gets cut off, like, that's a damn good effect. So, yeah, I think the effects look great in here. I actually do end up really liking pretty much everybody in this film. Despite the fact that many of them are just like grade A assholes. Like, Jesse Ventura's character is not a good person, but he's fun. He's an asshole, but he's a fun asshole. And I do think this film has like a decent like little chunk of humor in there, which I've always said, like horror films, you need that little dash of humor in there. Because the lines, man, they are like classic Shane Black over-the-top lines. Like, I ain't got time to bleed. That's a Shane Black line. But the even more Shane Black line is the line that comes right after that line, which no one remembers, which is the guy he's talking to just goes, huh. Just like he acknowledges how stupid the thing that he just said is. Like, yeah, I love that they came in here and they purposely tried to write the most badass 80s action film dialogue they could, but then every now and then they would stop to acknowledge how crazy that is. Speaking of being crazy and over the top, maybe my favorite scene in this entire film is when they just destroy the entire rainforest with gunfire. That
back when they didn't really give a fuck about the environment.
No. They made like 5 different species go extinct in that one scene. But I talk about how, yeah, I have that memory in my head of like the handshake scene, but when I watched it, I forgot how long that scene went on for. Man, this one, I thought it went on for like a third. I forgot there is a moment in which they have to stop and reload their weapons during this shootout. That is just the perfect example of when this film is over the top in all the right ways. But the final, like, actual battle between Schwarzenegger and the Predator, I think that is an amazing action scene.
Oh, yeah.
That is a fantastic, like, you see him actually, like, discover, okay, so he can't see me if I'm covered in mud, and it makes sense. And you see him actually trying to like take away all of his advantages. He's actually setting up all these traps.
Yeah, it's like basically mono e mono or mono e alien.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah, it's like throw away none of that fancy high tech bullshit. Just one-on-one.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
and me.
And
like,
that's what you want to see in this film. And I love that it wasn't just like, he gets a high-tech weapon too, and he starts on it. Like, no, he has to actually bring the Predator down to his level. I actually really dug that.
I like how he used like the jungle to like build traps and everything.
Yeah,
using the environment to his advantage.
And it makes sense for the kind of missions that this guy has gone on throughout his entire life. Yeah, of course he would know how to do something like this. But there is one thing in this film that I completely wiped from my memory, which is the fact that the Predator has a Vincent Price laugh at the end of this entire film.
Yeah.
Well, I remember him laughing at the end of this. I remember him setting off the bomb and him laughing, but I remember like, that's all I remember.
Yeah, like, did they edit in the Vincent Price?
No, that's there. That is there in the original. I made sure to check on this. It is there in the original. But yeah, it starts off as the which that's what I remember from when I was a kid. But then it just goes
and that just felt so out of place. It
felt so weird.
Yeah, it's like, this thing is not human. It should not have a human
It doesn't
laugh.
have lips.
No.
How's it doing that? Hey, Peach. Yeah, Peach's been running around our feet this entire time. Let's finally pick her up.
She's been chewing on her bone the way Schwarzenegger was chewing on a cigar.
This is what Schwarzenegger does with a cigar.
No, it's...
No.
There we go. That's more like it.
That's it. Okay. But yeah, I still really dig this film. We actually haven't ever done a score on the Post-Geekout Retrospective. I just remember that. I'd give this a... okay. I kind of want to do 9. I kind of want to give it like a 9 out of 10. But yeah, there are those few moments in here where it doesn't quite age perfectly.
Yeah, and like because of that, I'll like give it like an 8.5.
I'll give it an 8.5. I think it's a solid 8.5. But the weird thing is, like, a lot of the best films in the 80s, I give like a solid 8. But to me, like 9 is, when you get up to 9, it's like, man, this is a masterpiece. 5 to me is fun. I mean, sorry.
8.5.
8 to me. 8 or 8.5 to me is just fun. And that's what this film is. Like, it is just pure fun. Like, there isn't anything complex in here. It doesn't, like, challenge you to, like, understand anything new. It is just there to be pure fun. And that's what the, like, 8 range in my score is always, like, kind of reserved for. So,
8 is for 80s.
Yes. Oh, God, we've been watching a lot of 80s films to prepare for Thor-Eween.
Yeah, it's like...
There's a lot of 8s coming up in our reviews.
Yeah, but it's like... A lot of good horror movies came out in the 80s.
Which a lot of that has to do with practical effects. Like, that was the generation in which they really figured out, like, the perfect way to do, like, practical effects.
Which kind of makes me sad that the 90s rolled around, and then we started, like, relying more on digital, so that's when things kind of got awkward.
Yeah. But okay, so that is it. Like I said, tomorrow we will have our official review of the new Predator film, which I hear is not very good. And I know that I came in here praising how Shane Black writes dialogue, but there's a lot of nasty stories coming out about him on the set of this thing. Oh boy. Yeah, so I'm praising his writing skills, not him as a person. I want to make that clear right now. So yeah, we will be discussing that film tomorrow. So if you want to see our review of that, then make sure that you come back tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Come back next time. Bye.
Bye.